Carnival of Horror. He walked down the street, surrounded by a snowy wind that funneled itself through the buildings that kept their tops warm by holding the very sky itself. Through the veil of night, he admired the city lights. His eyes raced along the windows, and he watched people living their lives. And from below, he looked down on them. Jevin paused there, his face turning a grimace, and his broad shoulders shrugging off the cold. He would become king tonight. He stepped, and his boots were held to the ground, seized by the sea of hands that replaced the cold concrete. Arms erupted upwards, grabbing him at his pant legs, and then at the edges of his shirt. Screams of anger, not of fear, hit the air, and he was consumed by the flesh-filled wave. He felt himself being pulled and falling into nothingness. In front of his eyes was the hatred of the world, coded in the sum of all the sorrows and fears and negativity found in the hearts of men and women. His soul trembled, rebuking the feeling of desperation knocking on his heart from so many negative emotions. His soul used those emotions as kindling to light the flames that began to burn in his being, turning his own fear and question into the ashes of nurturing that created a swarm of ether, colored in black, blue, and brown. The ether swarm surrounded him and covered his fall and began to manifest as leaves, colored in the blood of autumn. His body, now bare to the elements, was subject to the chill of the air as it hadn't been before. He was groggy, focused on bright lights and a gate that was in view. Upbeat music filled his ears and welcomed his gaze past the horizon of the entrance. This was a carnival. "What the hell am I doing here?" barked Jevin, confused and angered. He stood up, marveling at his lack of clothes, the few sparks of ether that left from his body fluttering in the air, and the way this new place seemed to draw him in. The chill was annoying. It made him remember the clothes he was wearing before he was delivered here. There was a white shirt, his father's blackened combat boots, and a picture in his pocket. It was by his ether that these things materialized, and he was clothed just as he had been before. His amber-colored eyes lit the dark and acted as a beacon to the aeons responding to his call. The first of those aeons was sent to set the tone of how his trials were to unfold. A clown, covered in baggy clothes that were patterned in reds and blues, peeked around the corner of the gate and waved at him playfully. The painted smile crept through the dark and seemed to walk before him as he haunted Jevin. "Seems like we have another visitor to the greatest show in all creation." He raised his arms and made a show out of everything he said. Jevin was not impressed. Jevin walked around, passing the clown and going to the gates of the carnival. The clown laughed behind him, hurrying himself forward and grabbing the man's shoulders as he hissed in his ears with a jovial statement. "You seem like a brave one. You just go along into the gate without knowing what's there." Jevin turned his nose up as he faced the creepy clown. "Where the fuck else am I supposed to go?" His hand went over his shoulder to purge the clown's hand from his person. "Ain't you gonna show me something?" The clown backed up, and his smile got bigger. "Let's get going then." The carnival was covered in bright red and white lights that were used to draw people in to play certain games all over the grounds. The games near Jevin were things like the strongman hammer, marksman games, and a goldfish ring toss. Each of the games were also warped in some way. The strongman hammer was spiked, and the pedal was in the shape of a person's head, The marksman game was meant to have its target be something like silhouettes of people and children. Jevin, again, was not amused. As they moved towards the back of the lot, there were even more games that called concern to what was going to happen here. Clown. Jevin called to his tour guide. The clown ignored him, and Jevin didn't take too fondly to being ignored. He walked off from his guide in a huff. He walked past a few food booths. It smelled good enough. But there was something that he couldn't trust about this place. He closely observed families that seemed to be enjoying everything the carnival had to offer. He had also noticed a peculiar pattern. It seemed as if each of the families was a sort of loose copy of the others in some way. They each moved the same, dressed similarly, and talked with each other, as if they had all come from the same place. Fucking weird, he thought to himself. That's when he was startled. The clown popped out from behind a booth with wide arms. Oh, it seems as if you got a little lost there, Mr. Jackson. That was the tipping point. He had never introduced himself. There was no way that clown should have known who he was like this. This caused Jevin to pause and turn to the food cart to his left. He reached into his pockets, pulling a 20, and handed it over to the clown. Get us something to eat, Jingles. The clown raised a finger, and a look of surprise crept over his face. I think you might have the wrong idea. He was stopped mid-sentence by Jevin, who turned back to face him. Nah, that's you. He pointed at the money, wanting the clown to analyze it closer. On the face of the bill, right under the face, was the text, "Fuck this clown." Jevin walked away. I mean that shit too.